Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Hope you're all well. Um, I am coming on to talk to you about sleep. You may be aware that this week is Sleep Awareness Week. It's been called a few different things. I've seen Safer Sleep Week, World Sleep Week. So today I'm going to be chatting to a sleep expert called Karen. So she runs the brand Asleep at Last, which you may have seen, and she's going to be talking to us about all things sleep. So I'm sure that with motherhood, we all know that we all have a lack of sleep. So even in pregnancy, towards the end, you get really uncomfortable. The amount of times you get up to go to the toilet in the night, and then once your baby comes, I mean, naively, I thought that I might be able to catch up on some sleep, but of course, with newborn sleep, you're up every 3 to 4 hours. So I can see Karen sent a request, and we can chat to her all about it. Does that work?
Yeah. Oh, I'm the wrong way.
Oh, you're sideways.
Let me turn myself correctly the right way. Can you see me? Oh my god.
You're a bit blurry. I can see a window. Oh, there you go.
Here I am.
How are you?
It's changed since I last did a video, actually. So it makes you do portrait, doesn't it? Strange.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello.
We can see you fine now. Hello. You okay?
Yes, I'm good. I was listening to your story there about what you were saying. And I was the same when I was pregnant. I was like, oh, this is just pregnancy. It'll be better when I had the baby.
I know.
Don't want to scare people, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it's good to set realistic expectations, I think.
Yeah.
For anyone watching, I just wanted to make a note to say, if you want to ask us any questions, pop them in the comments, and at the end we'll have a look through them.
Yeah. My phone is kind of balanced on some boxes here, so hopefully it
stays mine.
up.
I think I need a proper stand to hold it up. It's just balancing on a little cylinder.
Yeah, I know. I keep thinking I'll get one, but never do.
No, that is on my to-do list. So maybe we can just start off, and you can explain a little bit about yourself and how you got into learning so much about baby sleep.
Yes, my favourite topic, sleep. So yeah, I knew nothing about sleep when I had my two little girls. They're 7 and 5 now, so quite a while ago. And yeah, I just thought that I would cope because I wasn't a great sleeper anyway. So I thought that it would be okay. But my oldest, she was fine until she hit the 4-month sleep regression. And then she was waking every hour and 40 minutes on the dot.
That's so similar to us.
Really? Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
like, I don't even think I knew about the sleep regression at the time. But yeah, she was 1 hour, 40 minutes. She used to watch the clock, and I thought it would get better. It would get better. It went on for about 6-8 weeks, and it wasn't changing. And honestly, like, I like to be honest. I'm going to be like really honest with my experience. I would get really angry, and luckily I didn't do anything, thank God, but I can see how people would, because I would be so angry with her that she wouldn't go back to sleep, and that scared me, and it worried me, as it would do. But I'm really bad at asking for help. Well, I used to be really bad at asking. Now I'm like, anyone please help me. And so I struggled on through it, but my husband noticed, and he kind of took it into his own hands, and he said, right, we're going to sleep train. And I was like, what sleep training? And he told me, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And he was like, it's okay, I'll do it. And I locked myself in the bathroom, and he did it because I couldn't do it. I couldn't face that. And then after that, she slept through the night. So then you just don't look back, and it was fine. With my second,
that's exactly what I think about it as well. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah, exactly. Just literally a few days. I couldn't believe it. With my second daughter, I was like, oh, I will not make those mistakes. I will be completely different. I won't need to sleep train because it will just happen naturally, blah blah blah. And then she had reflux, and I had a really bad back problem, and I had my colitis flare up, and she had a neck problem, and it's just like one thing after another. And we just got into the co-sleeping, the dummy, the holding, like we just had to survive. And so you just need to do what you have to do. But then when she hit 4 months, I was like, right, that's it, we need to do the sleep training again. So we did it, and yeah, then again, didn't look back. But then friends and family would ask me, like, because I'd say to them, she's taking consistent naps and she goes to bed like quite early, and they would ask me, oh, how are you doing this? And I'd read quite a lot on the internet, so I'd gained some knowledge, and so I started helping them. I was like, oh my god, it really works. So
Yeah.
then they were like, oh, you should do this as a job. And I was like, oh, can you actually do that as a job? And then like found out, yes, you can. And yeah, so that's how
Oh,
I
that's
got into
great.
it.
So yeah, you obviously feel really passionate about it. I know what you mean, because when we went through exactly the same with Ava, so she was fine as a newborn, then we hit the 4 month sleep
Yeah,
regression, woke up every 45 minutes to 1 hour, and I felt like, you know, oh my God. I think even one night I just screamed the house down at 3 in the morning because
yeah.
I was like, please just
Please.
sleep. I'm so
You're
tired.
begging them, aren't you? You're begging. You're like, I don't know why we're
Yeah.
begging. Like, it's not their fault. That's the thing. But you just don't know what you're in despair. You just don't know what
Yeah.
to do. So,
It's sleep deprivation, isn't it? It's a
yeah,
form of torture. They use it in,
yeah,
the war for to torture
yes,
people. So when
yes,
you think
yeah,
women are doing this
yeah.
every night, so
Exactly, yeah. So that was kind of how I got into it. But yeah, I do, like, I'm obsessed with sleep anyway now. But yeah, sleep is, and I've learned so much about sleep and how it's part of, having a healthy life and how important it is. And I do
yeah,
think we underestimate the importance of sleep and the role sleep plays in our health, in our mental health and our physical health. And I don't want to scare people, but it is one of those pillars, like along with nutrition and exercise, that keeps us healthy and gives us a long life. And I think us as mums, we do kind of just accept sometimes. We're really good at accepting this is just how it is
yeah,
and we should be able to cope with
yeah.
this.
It'll be fine.
When actually you don't have to accept that. And yeah, but we'll get on to that later, I'm sure.
Yeah. So for any expectant parents or new mums that are watching now, what can you share with them that they can expect from newborn sleep?
Yeah, newborn sleep actually. I suppose, like I said, and you said, our little ones were okay, like they were quite good when they were newborn. So when they're first born, they have a lot of melatonin, which is the sleepy hormone, and that helps them to do like longer chunks of sleep. And I think everyone knows, they're going to wake every 2 to 3 hours for a feed, and so we're all prepared for that. So definitely for the first few weeks, like, you don't need to worry about anything sleep wise. They will just unless they've got reflux, they should just settle into a rhythm of feeding and sleeping afterwards. So I wouldn't really worry about doing anything for the first 4 weeks. But after about 4 weeks, melatonin does start to wear off because they get a lot of melatonin from us, and then they start to make their own about 4 weeks. So there are a few things that you can do to get into healthy sleep habits. And I always explain this in the way of trying to mimic the environment from inside the womb. So if you think
Okay.
about the environment in the womb, it is really dark. It's really noisy, like a lot noisier than we realize, because obviously something like your heartbeat, for example, that's really loud when they're right up next to it. So it's really noisy, and they're all cuddled up, nice and warm and snug. And then they're born, and it's really bright out here. It's not as noisy as they're used to, and their arms are flailing around all over the place. So swaddling is an amazing thing that, again, I didn't know about and didn't do with my girls, and I wish I had. So my brother and his girlfriend are about to have a baby, and I'm like getting all the swaddles ready for them. Like,
Yeah.
please use this from day one, because what it
Oh,
does is it
lovely.
helps to kind of mimic that cuddle feeling, makes them feel safe, and also stops them waking themselves up with the Moro reflex, which is that thing where they keep jolting.
The shock one where they fling their arms out.
Yes, my oldest kept doing it. I asked the doctor, why does she keep doing that? And he said, oh, that's just normal. And she kept waking
Yeah.
herself up and waking me up. So, but I
Oh,
didn't know about the swaddle. So yeah, the swaddle is a great tool to use from birth. A lot of people say, oh, I tried swaddling, but the baby didn't like it. And that's often because you're trying to swaddle them when they are overtired. So yeah, they're not going to like
okay.
anything at that point. So try and catch them before they get really sort of super tired. So maybe put them into the swaddle before you do the feed and before they're going to go to sleep. And so swaddle is number one. The second one is white noise. Again, like I say, the environment in the womb is really noisy, so having some white noise gives their brain something to focus on, and it's familiar. Can also help them to drift off. It does need to be quite loud. And then darkness, again, around about 4 weeks, when they're starting to make excuse me, their own melatonin will help the darkness helps to produce the melatonin. So yeah, getting the room kind of as dark as you can will help with that. Around about 7-8 weeks, that's when I'd start to do a bedtime routine. Again, I wish I'd done this with my little ones. It does seem really small for them to have a bedtime routine, but actually they need an early bedtime, so around about 6:15. And what that means is that you can get a couple of hours to yourself. Obviously they will wake up for a feed. It's a good idea to do kind of like an awake feed around about 10-11, because that kind of builds up a bit of sleep pressure for them. But yeah, it gets them into that habit really early, so that when as they do grow, that just evolves and becomes kind of set in stone. So an early bedtime and a bedtime routine. Also, if you've got another child, it's really handy to do the bedtime routine together.
I know how that feels.
Yeah, you can put the baby down usually before you put the other child down, so you get a little bit of one-on-one time with the other child before the newborn goes down. And that's kind of my main tips. Newborns can't self-settle until they're 16 weeks. So don't try and start thinking, some people get stressed. They're like, oh, like they only sleep on me. They need a lot of assistance, like feed to sleep and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's pretty normal and that's fine. Like you don't need to worry about that.
Okay.
What you can do is, if you want them to kind of like be in their own beds as opposed to on you, is just give them a bit of patting while they're on their side, and then when they're asleep, roll them onto their backs, obviously. But the patting does need to be quite strong, so almost like their head's kind of like jiggling away, to get them to drift off without needing to be held or needing to be fed. So you can start to do that, but yeah, they can't self-settle, so don't worry about anything like that at all.
Okay. It's interesting what you say about they like a noisy environment, because we often see pictures where you're saying, shh, baby's sleeping, and really they probably like the Hoover or the washing machine on. So
yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about tiptoeing around them, because you want them to get used to noise as well, because you don't want to have to we can't speak because the baby's asleep, which is why newborns do so well when they're in the Moses basket downstairs and you've got the TV on and stuff and they still sleep, because they're used to it. They're used to that noise, the hustle and bustle. Like they actually really like it. So yeah, again, I wish I'd used white noise. But yeah,
white noise was a godsend for us.
Oh, did you use it?
And what would you? Yeah, we loved it. I used it right up until she was 1, and then I just started making it a bit quieter each night. But that was more me. I was thinking, oh, I know this works now, so you're just going to have it in your room.
Exactly, yeah. And you can, it's good for blocking out noise, like external, as they get older and they do get more susceptible to noise around.
Like
blocking out the noise, like if you've got noisy neighbours or you live on a busy road, it is really handy to not have to worry about that stuff. And you can bring it with you as well when you're travelling. So again, you're not worrying about like, oh, they're going to wake up because it's going to be a noisy environment. Just keep replicating that same kind of environment, and that is a good sleep association. Because I know some people worry, they're like, won't they just get used? They won't be able to sleep without white noise. It's like, not necessarily, but it's not really a bad habit to have anyway. To have the noise is not, it's not a bad thing for them to be used to. And like you say, you just wean them off it slowly as they get older anyway, and they'll be fine. So yeah.
Oh, good. And what would you suggest for a safe sleep environment?
So safe sleep is pretty much nothing at all in the cot. So I know people like to decorate their cots and have little like teddies in there and little cutesy little things, but the guidance now is literally nothing but the baby. No blankets either, because I know people do like blankets as well, to pop over them, even on top of a sleep bag or on top of a swaddle. That's not safe. So literally just the swaddle or a sleep bag. Place them on their backs. No hats either. It's another thing that some people get confused about. Oh, the baby's cold, let's put a hat on them. That's not safe either. They need their head kind of free, if you like, to help regulate their temperature. And temperature of the room about 18 to 20 degrees. But other than that, that's kind of it for safe sleeping.
Yeah, good tips. And then we touched on sleep regressions earlier. Do you want to share with everyone what the dreaded sleep regressions are?
Yeah, you know what? There is a lot of fear around sleep regressions. I've realised, talking to people, a lot of fear. And actually, all the sleep regressions are I don't know why they're even called sleep regressions, because it's not like the sleep regression comes first. The sleep can regress a little because of the regression, which is no, it's not even because of the regression, because of the developmental leap or the skill that they're trying to learn. So you will always notice. So they happen at 4 months, 8 months, 12 months, 18 months, and 24 months. So there is a lot. Yeah, you'll notice the skill at the end of the regression. Or even during the regression, you'll notice what they're working on, and some of them are working on more than one thing at a time. I find like the 8-9 month one, there is so much going on for that age group. So like they've got sitting up potentially. Some of them are, trying to even potentially crawl. So like physically moving. But as well as that, they also learn that you can go away and not come back. And so that can cause separation
my God, the
anxiety.
separation anxiety.
Yeah. And
That's lasted from that age. We've had that and it's not gone away. I don't know if that's lockdown related. I'm like, please just no one coming back.
Yeah, some children are more susceptible to the separation anxiety definitely than others. But yeah, it peaks. Separation anxiety will peak and tail off for the first 2 years of life, really. But yeah, so at 8 months, they've also got like teething, which is just annoying. And yeah, there's just a lot going on for this age group. So yeah, you'll see that they're working on a skill. Regressions should pass within 2 to 3 weeks, okay? But what usually happens is when your child goes into a leap and they start regressing in their sleep, so they start waking up in the night to practice the skill, the parents are like, oh, why are they awake now? What do they need? And we kind of go in there and we start assisting or giving them something that we weren't giving them before, like an extra feed, or sometimes we end up taking them into our bed if they won't go back to sleep. And then the development happens and they learn the skill and it's kind of passed, but you're then left with that new thing that you're now doing that you weren't doing before, that then causes
a new sleep association.
Yeah, so you feel like you're kind of back at square one. And sometimes if your child was not sleeping well to begin with, things have now gone from bad to worse. So I find that children that have learned to self-settle and don't have that many associations going on, they tend to handle the regressions a bit better than the ones that have got a lot of associations going on and having a lot of assistance. That situation kind of gets a bit worse. The 4-month one is the big one everyone talks about, and that's because it's a progression in the way that the baby sleeps. They're no longer newborn anymore, and they have a more adult like sleep pattern. So like us, we'll wake every couple of hours at night, but we don't remember because we just turn over and go back to sleep. They do the same, but now if you were using some assistance to get them to sleep before, you'll now need to do it more frequently, like you and I had to do with our little ones. That's what happened there. And so this is a great age to teach them to remove those associations and teach them to sleep independently, so that you kind of come out of that, and then gives them the chance to potentially sleep through the night, broken by feeds if they need them. Because this one doesn't really go away as such, because it's not like a skill it's that they're practicing. It's more of a fundamental change within their brain that happens. So that's what goes on around, and that can happen between 3 and 5 months as well, because I actually think my daughter was 3 months when she started this.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it can be earlier than 4 months. So a lot of people think that it's going to happen literally bang on 4 months, and then they're confused when they've got a 3-month or a 5-month-old that's kind of all of a sudden not sleeping. It will be that regression, that change has happened. So yeah, because my daughter was 3 weeks early, so I think that played into it as well. She was ahead of the curve in that way. But
shock to the system.
Yeah, so that's kind of it with regressions. Really, they should pass and stay consistent. So like, don't start introducing any new things that you weren't doing before, because that's where the problems start coming in, and that's where you can't get out of the cycle.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about removing sleep associations, because with Ava, when she went through the 4-month sleep regression and woke up that often, sometimes I would think, like what you said, you start feeding them where you normally wouldn't feed them, like, oh, is she hungry?
Yeah, because you're trying to work it out.
Yeah, and I kept putting the dummy in, and eventually I realised that she just wanted to suck on something to fall asleep. So when I started the sleep training when she was 5 months, I was told, give her the dummy to go to bed, but when it falls out, don't replace it. And like what you said, you wanted to hide away in the toilet when all the crying and the protesting happened. But it was about half an hour on and off of being upset. And then all of a sudden, she just slept
Yeah,
through the night.
yeah,
I didn't. I woke up all night thinking,
yeah.
oh my
You
God,
do.
is she breathing? Is she
Yeah,
still alive?
yeah,
And then that was it.
yeah.
Honestly, like from that night, we just she didn't rely on the dummy anymore, and she just slept. It was amazing.
Yeah, I find there's a lot of
Yeah.
fear around doing that, like leaving them to it and see what happens. I think we get
Mm.
really scared, don't we? We're like, oh my gosh, but they're just, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't cope with it, I can't cope with it. But
Yeah.
actually, it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Um, if you do it the right way. Sometimes, a lot of times, it is bad, and that's because people are doing it incorrectly. So they're not quite
Okay.
understood the method, or they haven't really got a plan, so they're just like, oh, I'll try this, but then I'll try it for like 5
Yeah.
minutes, but then if I can't go, I'll just won't do it, and then it's inconsistent, and then it's not going to work, because ultimately you're teaching the baby that eventually, if they cry long enough, you'll just give them what they
Given.
had anyway. Yeah, and then you're back at square one. So
Yeah.
but then you're put off. You're like, I don't want to do that again. So
Yeah.
you really do need to have it in your head that you're going to do this and you're going to commit to it. And like you say, short-term pain for long-term gain, and it'll be okay. And it shouldn't really
Yeah.
be more than 1 to 2 weeks, before you see a massive improvement. So, but it's that, yeah, it's that confidence, I suppose, the confidence to know that,
Yeah.
is a thing
I,
to struggle with.
I feel like a lot of mums almost have to hit desperation point before they'll make the change as well. You kind
Oh
of live
yeah,
with no sleep for such a long time, and then,
yeah,
like what you said, um, you were feeling angry, and I just like screamed the house down at 3 in the morning.
yeah,
I think you hit that point, you think something's got to change now. I
yeah,
can't keep doing this,
yeah.
and the baby's tired all day because she's been up all night. So
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, no, I definitely hear that a lot from mums. Like, I'm at my wit's end, I'm absolutely desperate. And I agree, like, it doesn't need to get to that point. Like, it doesn't need to have to be at that point, because by that point, you are really stressed and really
Yeah.
anxious. And it's really hard to calm down and come back from that. However, I do admire all the people that I work with and who reach out for help and ask for help. I just think they're
Mm.
amazing, because I didn't have the confidence to even ask for help. So I love it when people come to me and they're like, oh, can I have some advice? I'm like, oh, that's amazing. The fact that you've recognized that you need to change something and you're not sure what, and you just want to know, how, like, what you could do differently. You're willing to make that change and you recognize that. I just think that, yeah, that's amazing. And I just hope and wish that more women would feel that they could do that. So there's a real thing about, we should be able to cope and know, because you're a human being, and unfortunately we're designed to sleep.
Mm.
Biologically, we have to
Yeah.
sleep, we need sleep. So yeah.
Oh, so touching on that, my next question was going to be what advice you have for sleep deprived parents.
Oh yes, there you go. So sleep deprivation, that thing. Do you know what? I've realised that some people are fine with sleep deprivation. Like some people do cope like fine, like well, on broken sleep, lack of sleep. It's not like, even though, but like I said, I always talk about biologically, we need sleep, we need a full night's sleep, not broken sleep, and it's good for your health to have, a solid night's sleep, blah blah blah. I also recognise there are people out there who perhaps don't need as much sleep as I do, and they're doing all right. So, I'm not really speaking to those people. It's more to the people like you and I who, I would say, like
Crazy.
they're struggling, but you don't realize you're struggling. You just think it's your fault or something, and that you should do things differently. And you are starting to feel anxious, and you're starting to feel angry. You've got low mood. You haven't got patience. That's the other thing. Like, I don't have patience anyway, but when I'm not sleeping, even now, if my girls wake me up, I just have no patience. And it's because that's just what lack of sleep does to me. And those are the signs, kind of thing, that suggest that something needs to change. Also, if you're not enjoying the time with your baby, because a lot of us aren't, but we're afraid to admit that that it's not enjoyable for us, because all we can think about is how tired we are and how we want sleep, but we're not getting sleep. And you become obsessed with sleep, and then you try and change things yourself and it doesn't work. And then you're just constantly stuck in this loop. I would say for those mums in that sort of scenario, like prioritize the sleep, like prioritize yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Absolutely. There's a lot of conflicting information out there on sleep, but there's also a lack of support amongst health visitors, GPs, that there's just not the advice out there for what to do if you're struggling. And the problem with sleep is it is quite complicated. It isn't just like one quick fix. There's a lot of different parts to consider. So the first thing I would say, if you're struggling, is try and focus on getting on top of your child's overtiredness. Because if your child is frequently waking at night and taking short naps, which are usually hand in hand, it's because your child is overtired, and there's some sleep debt there that you want to get on top of before you even think about teaching them to sleep in their own beds or not feeding them to sleep, etc., etc. So to do that, I would, refer back to what their awake window should be for their age, which is different depending how old they are. I have a free guide, so if you want my guide, DM me and I can give you that. It's for babies 4 to 12 months, but I can also give you the awake window if your child is out of that age group as well. And then try and focus on waking them up at a consistent time in the morning and putting them to sleep within that window. So not at the end of the window, with it like 15 to 20 minutes before the window. And if that means holding them to sleep, rocking them, putting them in the pram, feeding them, whatever you need to do, that's fine, because at least they will then go. That's the way they know how to go to sleep. So don't try and do sleep training and then try and get on top of the overtiredness and try and get their naps. So it's too much. So just focus on getting on top of their overtiredness by trying to assist them to sleep within their awake window, and get them on the age appropriate naps for their age during the day, which will in turn help them to have an earlier bedtime, which will in turn help them to not wake up so much during the night. And that might be all you need to do. That might actually be enough. Like that might solve the problem. So I always say start there first, because when you're sleep deprived, it's just so overwhelming. You don't know where to begin. So I always say start with that. And like I say, don't be afraid to reach out for help, to ask for help. To give yourself a break as well. Ask somebody to take the baby so that you can catch up on some sleep, so that you've got some energy and some motivation to work on this. Because that's the other thing, is often the days just roll into the weeks and you just don't know who you are or where you are anymore. So
I loved learning about wake windows. I only learned about them with my second child. And the issue that we had with my firstborn was that she was an early riser, and people would often say, I'll put her to bed later. So I would try that, and she'd still get up really early, and I mean like 4:30 some days. And then I learnt about wake windows, and I was thinking, actually, if she wakes up at say 5 in the morning and I put her down at 7 and then I push it to 8, she's awake even longer. She's even more overtired. So I was only through being consistent for quite a while as well with putting her to bed early that she then started to wake up later, which was really amazing.
It's like a revelation, the awake windows, isn't it? Another thing that I didn't know about. When I learned about them, I was like, right, this is it. This is my life's work, to just tell everyone about awake windows, because that alone can solve the problem. And if it doesn't, it's at least a step in the right direction. And it's early morning wakes especially are really hard. But again, if you're consistent, and it can be a bit of trial and error to figure out what is the issue. With early morning wakes, it usually is the bedtime is too late. And be patient, because changes don't happen overnight. So it can take several days of trying the same thing before you know whether or not it's working. But sometimes it's like the tiniest thing. That's what I love about sleep. Sometimes it is just a simple thing. It depends on, everyone's scenario is different, but awake windows alone can help so much.
Amazing. We did have one question earlier in the week from one of my followers. She's got a 7-month-old baby who's breastfed. She's currently fed to sleep, but the mum wants to put her down drowsy, and asked if you have any tips.
So the drowsy but awake thing, I don't do that. I don't recommend that my clients do it either. It just doesn't work. How do you know if they're drowsy versus asleep? It's just too
Okay.
difficult to tell. So with feeding to sleep, that is the strongest association that you can have, feeding to sleep. So it does take time to break that association. But first thing I would say is feed sort of 20 to 30 minutes before you put them down for sleep, so that you know they're not going to be so tired that you're kind of reducing the chance of them falling asleep on the breast. And then of course what that means is that, yeah, potentially that means you'll be putting them down awake in the beds, which lots of mums are terrified of, because they're like, oh my god, that means they're going to scream and I can't do that, like they'll just be a mess. And yes, they will scream, but that's why it's important to know what you're doing instead. So what's the plan? So with feeding to sleep, I would say hold them to sleep instead, or rock them to sleep, or you do so, to replace the feeding with some kind of assistance if you don't want to just go for the awake, and then wean off that assistance gradually as well, like over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. Or you can just put them down, but just stay with them and comfort them when they're upset, hold them, but then keep trying to put them down. Like, it can take a good couple of hours of doing that before they'll fall asleep, but they will eventually fall asleep. And then as soon as they've done it once, then you know that they can do it, and it gives you the confidence to continue on. Yeah. And it's, so yeah, feeding to sleep, I wouldn't try with the whole drowsy, because it's just too hard and it's too confusing for the baby as well, and it can prolong things. So I would just do it that way.
Okay, that's a good tip. Just going to have a look and see if anybody's asked any questions.
Yeah, I don't want to touch my phone in case I press something in there.
I know what I'm going to say. We've got a comment from Yum Mama. Sleep is totally ignored by health professionals, being told it's part and parcel of being a parent.
Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? I hate that. Really gets me angry. That does. My mum still says that to me. She doesn't really get on board with what I'm doing. She's like, well, that's just kids for you, isn't it? And
I know
that's like, we need to stop doing that. We really do, because there are ways out of it. There really are, and it's important to give people hope and not just like draw a line under it and say that's it, that's your life for the next 18 years.
Yeah. Going to be exhausted.
Yeah, that's it. People say that to you, don't they? Like, I hear people say, well, my mum's saying it's from my brother, you know, oh, that's it, forget your sleep now, get sleep in as much as you can before baby comes, because you won't get any sleep once they arrive. I'm like, don't say that, because then what you're doing is you're making, again, reaffirming that when you are struggling with it, that you shouldn't be, and you feel guilty because you're like, but everybody says this is what parenting is like, so I just have to suck it up and get on with it now, and not feel like you can change things, and not feel like there's any hope for things to be different. So yeah, we need to stop saying things like that, and health professionals say.
And I think when you have those opinions as well, it kind of makes you a bit more fearful to be honest and say, look, I'm absolutely knackered now, and I really need some help.
Yeah, because you're scared of people judging you, think that you're a bad mom, which is ludicrous, because like I say, it's a basic human need. Like, you wouldn't stop eating. I mean, we do. I'm starving all the time because I don't prioritize feeding myself. But ultimately, we know we have to eat at some point. So like, because it's a basic need to survive. It's just, it's hard when people say things like that. It's not helpful. I always say it's just not helpful to have those comments. It's not.
Definitely. So I don't think there was any questions, but if anybody is watching this on replay, and you do have a question, I know Karen is offering free sleep advice on her Instagram page for today and tomorrow, which is amazing, because if you've got something very specific that you want to talk about and want to reach out about, then Karen is your go-to girl. And you offer one-to-one sleep support anyway, don't you? So if somebody wanted some more details, then
they can
reach out to that.
They can have a chat with me. So it's just for today and tomorrow. I'm just helping people, because often when people ask me a question, I've got like 2 questions back. So it's quite a bit of like, I like a detective trying to figure out what the issue is. So I thought the easiest way to do that is to allow people to come to my DMs, and I can just troubleshoot. I've already had quite a few and I haven't got back to anyone yet, so I need to do that after this, hopefully come back to everybody. But if anybody wants to do that, feel free to DM me, or if anyone wants more information about my 4-week program, which is a one-to-one way of working with me for 4 weeks, to get their baby or their toddler sleeping through the night, just send me a DM.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on live and speaking with everyone.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's some really useful tips.
Yes, I've loved
And
it. Really love it. My favourite
oh, thank
subject.
you. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so anyone watching, reach out to Karen. I will pop her handle below this video now. So thanks again, and hope everyone gets some sleep.
Yes. You sleep well, everybody. Thanks for listening. I have to work out how to get off this now.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.